And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
I don't want you to protest, I don't want you to riot, I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
We're not just going to let you walk out of here.
Take a giant step for mankind.
Get together, have a few laughs.
Welcome to the Iowa Talk Guys podcast. I'm your host, Teepee.
I'm Mel.
And tonight we're bringing you a special show, bringing one of my brothers from another mother on the show here that went out and did a lot of awesome stuff during for the relief of Hurricane Helene. Things that you're not going to find in the mainstream media because they're not talking about this stuff. This is old news, unfortunately, but there's still a lot of people out there that need help, that needed help from our government that pretty much abandoned them in their time of need. So citizens like my brother DW here stepped up, and we're going to hear his story and the things that he had seen and done, and no doubt was out there saving lives and stuff. So without further ado, DW, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and definitely looking forward to chatting with you guys here.
Yeah, dude. I've been excited about this show all day. I thought I screwed up the time earlier. I was like, oh, no. But then you're like, no, we can reschedule. We can do it in an hour. I was like, thank God, man.
Oh, yeah. It's all good, man. Like I said, I just figured something came up, and we on schedule now. We on track.
Yep, we got her now. So let's just, I guess, start at the beginning. So Hurricane Helene hit. All this destruction happened in the Appalachians in general, in particular. And mostly that damage was in Western North Carolina, correct?
Yeah, definitely Western North Carolina got the brunt of it, and Eastern Tennessee, right there on the line. You know, you could expect 30 to 50 miles each side of the line. Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. That's where the blunt of it hit for sure, or at least where, you know, the most, I don't know, impacted areas was.
Yeah, the most destruction, I think, would happen. So, so you saw this stuff happen, and then, so what made you decide, hey, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to help these people? I have this stuff. I have these this equipment. I'm just going to go.
Honestly, man, I have no idea what came over me. The night or the day that the storm hit, and, you know, talking to the locals up there after being up there, you know, it rolled in towards the evening, and by the morning, you know, you was already seeing videos and pictures and stuff like that, and on social media.
Yeah. And
I remember I seen this video of this girl. I don't remember if it was TikTok or if it was Facebook or what it was, but I just saw this video of this girl. She was like filming herself, and the waters were rushing by, and the water took out her neighbor's trailer, and she was like, you know, trapped, stuck. I don't even know what came of it. I couldn't find the video again if I tried, but she was sitting there crying, and she was like, this is so bad, and my neighbor's house, it's gone. And that was the last video I watched before I went to sleep. And I woke up the next morning, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, I think I'm going to go to North Carolina. And she was like, what? I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I can help there. And as soon as my feet hit the deck, man, I put a post on social media asking for donations, and next thing I know, I had people just dropping stuff off at the house left and right. Like it was wild. So then it started getting real, and I don't know. I took off that night and I was boots on deck the next morning. So there was really no other purpose behind me, or there was no other driving factor. I have no family up there. I don't know anybody up there. I don't know anything. I just knew that I had the skills, the physical ability, and the mentality to, like I had everything to go up there and be a valuable asset, instead of just a couple of hands there moving trees and stuff. Like, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then yours was kind of unique though too, because you have like motorized kayaks and stuff, right? So you were able to get into places that nobody was able to get into at first, correct?
So I did take my kayaks. I do have 3 motorized kayaks, and in my head, so I go up in that area pretty frequently, and I knew that most of the streams there are typically less than a knee deep, right? Like I wade those streams up there. I fish for freshwater trout up there. Like my wife loves the mountains. We go up there 2 or 3 times a year just to catch fresh trout and walk the streams. So with the way that the water rose, I thought it was going to be deep enough to use my motorized kayaks, or maybe even get onto Lake Lure. And I took a sled kayak, basically one that I could pull behind my kayak to, take supplies or transport somebody across the river, whatever the case may be. But by the time I got up there, my sights kind of shifted to, all right, the water's receding pretty fast. I don't know that my kayak's really going to be useful here. Well, it ended up being that I had so many dang supplies, and just with my small Toyota Tacoma truck bed, I can only fit so much. I took generators, I took 50 gallons of gas. I could only take so much. So I actually had to load the kayaks and everything up with all the supplies that were donated. So that's kind of how they became useful in an aspect. I didn't actually ever launch the kayaks because I was never in that situation, but I took them as a just in case type deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so the kayaks, like in my head, I didn't really know what I was getting into in the first place, but I took them as just in case type deal.
Yeah,
And,
be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. So I never really got to launch the kayaks and use them in that aspect, but I did launch the drone a bunch of times actually. I did get some pretty cool radios to talk to helicopter pilots. I got to basically rock and roll with that.
So were you coordinating with helicopter pilots, like you would see people with your drone and then walk them on to where they're at, or?
Right. Well, I used the drone for so for one instance, I used the drone to find us a path. There was a family that was trapped up on the mountainside. What was that mountainside? The road was Bloody Fort that they were trapped on, but they were trying for the whole day prior that I showed up to get to these people, and I showed up at the end of it at the fire department. That's kind of how I got in with the fire department. But I used it that day to find us a path to basically get up higher over the trees and be like, oh, there's a nice trail over here. They'll get over there. That was kind of my end for the fire department. So that's what I used it for on our first day for that rescue. And then also the radio gear was to get the link up with the helo pilots and just be like, hey, we got people over here, we got basically just guide them in, because I don't exactly know how helicopter pilots talk to ground crews there at all. Nobody else had a radio, so I think they were just flying blind, I guess. I don't know.
Wow, so it was a good thing that you were there, huh? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I came with a lot of different, tools, gear. Like I wanted to be an asset in any situation, and again, not just a set of hands, showing up like, hey, I'm here. Now you got to feed me. You got to do all this. Like I showed up with enough supplies to be self-sufficient for 30 days. I took MREs. I bought a bunch of snacks and stuff. Like I took my own drinks, took my own cooler. Like I didn't take a single thing from the fire department. I didn't take a single thing from any of the locals there. I showed up fully ready to assist and not be a burden. So
That's awesome.
that was kind of the main goal, really, for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Because obviously most people that did show up to help, they probably didn't even think about that stuff either, about being self-sufficient or anything, like you said.
Right. There was, like, when I first got to the fire department, did a lot of that. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of like drove me crazy. But at the same time, you got to appreciate the fact that, they do want to take time out of their day and come help. But you get so many of those people in that type of situation that, there's only so much a set of hands can do in that situation. You got to have gear to assist in other ways. And one of the ways that it really became a burden is people would just walk up to the chief of the fire department. Like, there was no chain of command set forward there. There was no nothing at the fire department. And I don't mean to put them on blast or nothing, but this is the truth. Like, if you didn't get in to talk to the chief before 8:00 in the morning, he was already so overwhelmed with trying to task out people and have people do things and talk to people that after 8:00 in the morning, man, he wouldn't talk to you. He'd just turn his shoulder to you if he wasn't, cool with you and stuff. Like, if he didn't know you or whatever. So, all those people just showing up, they're like basically bombarding the chief with questions and like, hey, I'm here, chief. And he'd ask him, what'd you bring? And he's like, oh, I got my hands. And then the chief's like, all right, well, just hang on for a second. And then he'd never go back to that guy just because there was 40 other people that asked him questions in the next 10 minutes. So a lot of those people that showed up asking questions was the same thing. Like, oh, I just showed up with a pair of hands. And the chief's already tasked out everybody that, can, that has a pair of hands. Like, I don't know. Like, it was just crazy that people didn't think about showing up with anything else or, take initiative towards something. Like, it made for a lot of confusion up there, especially for the leadership.
Yeah, they probably just got more overwhelmed with volunteers which kind of takes away time from going out there and rescuing people too. So that's unfortunate.
Right.
I guess that's just
exactly.
Nature of the beast or something, huh? Nobody was expecting that type of destruction from the hurricane at all.
Right. That is exactly what reels me back in when I would start getting kind of angry about the way things were being ran. Not necessarily angry. I guess angry is the wrong word. Like, just annoyed with it, because I feel like there should be some type of class or something, because whenever a country or a county goes into a state of emergency, right? Well, the fire chiefs of those counties actually kind of assume a higher command. Like, that's their role now. They're pretty much on par with the sheriff. If a gas station is closed, but that gas station has gas in it, the chief of that fire department has the authority to go freaking steal that gas. Like, that their role takes a step up once they get declared state of emergency. So with that being said, if they're going to have that type of role, then I feel like every fire department should, at least fire chief, before you become fire chief, it should be required that you take some type of, I don't know, disaster class, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's got to be some type of leadership class out there for that, because the disorganization and the lack of delegation and leadership was beyond mind-blowing. It took probably till about day 15 to day 18 time frame, so we're almost 2.5 weeks into it before they even got an ECP set up in front of the fire department.
What is an ECP set up?
So an entry control point. Basically, you control the volume of traffic that's coming in and out. So, again, people were just showing up to this fire department, hordes of people after day 3, day 4. I mean, people are just showing up left and right, and this place is loaded down. Every single person got delegated to go talk to the chief. It didn't matter if you were Joe Smuckatelli with 2 hands or if you were Jim Smuckatelli with heavy equipment and actual good gear. Everybody got cycled to the chief. So, picture that like every Marine in a battalion goes and talks to the battalion commander for their orders for the day.
Yeah, that'd be chaotic.
It's not. Yeah, that's exactly what it was, bro. It was complete and utter chaos at the fire department every morning. So that made it more difficult, way more difficult.
Yeah, I could only imagine. And you would think, yeah, that would be a priority for not only the fire chief, but also his assistant chief, so that you have 2 people that know that job and know what to do in that situation.
Right, exactly. And it wasn't, and I mean, I know, again, I was at the West Yancey Fire Department, and those guys, they were doing good things and stuff, cool. But it wasn't just them. It was any fire department that I went to. It was the same song and dance, bro. You got sent to the chief. The chief was overwhelmed, so then you get the cold shoulder from the chief, and it was just, I don't know. It made things very difficult at the beginning because guys like me that show up that actually have gear and can help. Well, I could barely get a 2-minute conversation in with the chief at the beginning to even let him know, like, hey, does anybody else here have a drone? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things, man, where even if you told him, he had done brain dumped it as soon as you stopped talking to him because he was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So,
and I would see that'd be really frustrating on your part when you're just like, I'm just trying to help, dude.
Right, exactly. So after our first little rescue mission, we got that done, and then the next morning, I kind of I don't know, I kind of started doing my own thing that next morning, really. I got up with the locals that I'd met the day before, and I was like, hey, man, like, the fire department is confusing this morning. I don't even know where the guys went that I worked with yesterday. The fire chief just is lost. So you guys live here. I heard you know the mountainside the best. I was like, where do you think people are still stuck? Like, I've seen you guys working a chainsaw yesterday. We can work a chainsaw. We can go help people, basically. And they were like, well, we don't know if anybody's been checked on here. We don't know if anybody's been checked on here. And I was like, well, let's go, So that's kind of pretty much where I ended up and stayed there just because I got in with the locals. And I don't know, man, I just kind of used the fire department in my back pocket. Like, hey, you guys know who I am. You see me here every day, and they did hook it up. Like, if I needed to take supplies, I could take supplies from them and run them to people. I kind of did some work for them with the drone, got them footage of Pensacola, which was still in Yancey County, but it was probably about 15-20 minute drive from there. It hadn't even been cleared by HE, and the chief sent me down there with the drone to get like aerial footage to kind of check things out. So they started coming around to me in a sense, but I still just didn't really mess with the fire department too much after the first couple of days, just because of the disorganization was too much, So I just kind of found my own thing with those locals, and I used their knowledge and their skill set of the land, lay of the land, and connections, and they kind of pointed me in the right direction to get things done. So
that's awesome, dude.
That's where it all started. Is, like I said, just the disorganization of the fire departments pushed me away, and I wasn't ready to leave, and then I found out that even the fire departments not all of them, but the fire department that I was working with, like they didn't. I don't know. I didn't really see any firefighters ever going on the mountainsides that I went on. Like it's almost like they just didn't care as long as they got their name put on the stamp, seal of approval type deal. You know.
Well, what do you mean? Like they get a pat on the back by the chief, or?
Well, yeah, just anybody. Like, for instance, the chief of that fire department. You know, so for instance, and I'll go back to this a couple of times, I'm sure. When that first night that I rolled up to the fire department, a lot of the firefighters had came back, and I got pulled in because I literally just rolled up. I got told to go talk to the chief, so I'm standing there, and I was about to talk to the chief, and these other group comes rolling up from the mountainside. They just came back in, and they had chainsaws all slung over their shoulder, and they just looked freaking beat, bro, like exhausted. And they stood there while I was talking to the chief, and I was like, yo, chief, I brought a drone. I brought everything to be self-sufficient. I don't need anything from you guys. I just need to know where people need help. And that firefighter that walked up, he was like, you got a drone? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you here to help? And I was like, yes. And he was like, you're coming with us tomorrow. Be here at 07. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? And he was like, we got people stuck at the top of the mountain on Bloody Fork, and we tried all day to get to them. There's just too many trees down. We can't, it's rough. We can't get to them. So in my head, I'm thinking, if these people are still stuck on this mountainside, and we don't know if the landslides are still happening, we don't know if trees are still falling, like it's a dangerous situation on the mountain. I get it. But at the same time, why did we stop working at 7 o'clock at night? Turn the freaking lights on, put some headlamps on, and why are we not pushing this mountain? Like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah. That's a good question.
That was my mindset. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, the chief made the call that nobody was to be on the mountains after 7. Like, no, chief, we can make that call 3 or 4 days from now when everybody's off the mountain, but there's people's lives still at stake out there, and we're here getting a hot meal made by a chef and stuff. Like, nah, that don't set right with me. So that was my first impression. So I was like, oh, this is kind of annoying, but whatever.
Right.
So I met him at 07 the next morning, and we didn't even step. I'm not even playing. I mean, there was a hiccup with the helicopter. Something about the first helicopter they had rogered up to come help that day. Wasn't on time, so they went ahead and called a different helicopter to come in, and that one showed up. Whatever, like, I don't know what happened exactly, but that's what I was told. So the next morning, we didn't even leave the fire department till about 9:30. We didn't even start the push to get to these people till about 11. If that gives you any insight on, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
What?
Yeah,
dude. Exactly. These people are stuck there. They don't have food. They don't have electricity. They don't have water. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They wasn't planning for this. So you don't even know, it's not like they had 72 hours to go get their hurricane supplies.
Right.
Like, so yeah, but instead all of the firefighters showed up at 7:30, ate their freaking breakfast cooked by a chef. And again, I didn't eat one time with the fire department. I didn't eat with anybody. I ate my MREs. I had ham and cheese sandwiches. Like, I ate everything out of the back of my truck. I did not take anything from these people. I just needed to know where to go is where I fell short. So, and that's where they came into play. But instead, they're sitting there eating scrambled eggs and bacon and toast and, you know what I'm saying, just having a luxury breakfast, laughing, joking, kicking, whatever. And then they decide that we're going to step at like 9:30. And then we finally made it to the mountainside area where we could park and start pushing. And it was probably 10:30, 11. And people were still stuck on the mountain at this time. Like, they're waiting on us.
Jeez, dude.
Right. So that just feeds into the like I didn't get a sense of urgency or I don't know, sense of urgency. Like I didn't get that out of the fire departments. It was almost just felt like I'm here because I have to be and my name's getting put on this. So if it turns out great, awesome. If not, whatever. Like, it just kind of had that mentality and feel to it.
Were they expecting FEMA to show up and take over for them or something?
I couldn't tell you, man. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you on that. I have no idea, brother. I don't know what they were waiting on. I don't know what it was, but I do know that whenever they sent me out with my drone, they wanted me to use the drone to get video footage of everywhere that I worked. And more specifically, the Pensacola town that I was telling you about, Pensacola, North Carolina, right outside of Burnsville. So they sent me there because they wanted to use my footage to put on CNN and hopefully bring funding to the county. I didn't even take an SD card for my drone. I just didn't take one. I didn't plan on taking pictures of anything. I didn't plan on taking videos. I didn't plan on any of that stuff. I had my drone strictly to get eyes in the sky. That's all I wanted it for. So I had to drive an hour and a half to go get an SD card for my drone so that way I could get them aerial footage of the devastation so they could submit it for funding.
Nobody at the fire department had an SD card.
No, bro. Like when I'm telling you, when I came back to transfer and offload the files to any computer that they had just so they had the footage, they didn't even have an updated computer that would accept an SD card.
Wow. What have they been spending their money on? Paint jobs for the trucks?
See, but there was a very nice, pretty helicopter, brand new helicopter pad sitting out front, though. Boy, like
and all that money on that breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
all these hot breakfasts. Oh my gosh,
bro! It was quite the fiasco just trying to do that. We actually ended up having to. So what we did was I took the DJI app and we basically airdropped the files from my phone or from my stuff or from my SD card, and we airdropped all the files or transferred the files to one of the firefighters' phone, and then he was able to go get to a friend's house like an hour and a half away, and he had to go there to basically put it in Dropbox or whatever. And that's how we got it to him. Like it was a disaster, bro.
That sounds like a chore, dude. Just to upload some video.
So, just to upload some video. So I finally got them that video. I got them their video footage and stuff. And after that, they were like, I got this little letter from the fire chief because whenever I tried to go to Pensacola, the state trooper was stopping everybody. If you didn't have a badge, you weren't getting in there, So they actually wrote me a letter that I pretty much have a pass all around Yancey County, and the chief signed his name and put his phone number on there and everything. So that came in clutch for what I was trying to do, and that kind of feeds back into why I said I was just keeping the fire department in my back pocket, is because I didn't really want to necessarily be associated or have to deal with the disorganization up there because it wasn't helping anybody. So
right
after getting this letter, that was my key. Every roadblock that I pulled up to, anything where people were like, yo, you can't be here. Like, you see this letter? I'm going to go ahead and go do this because the chief said I can.
Diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, exactly. So that was another, factor of the situation that, like I said, I didn't want to make the fire department mad. I didn't want to step on any toes or any of that. But I also saw like just the disorganization and everything. The lack of leadership was very, very irritating. So I just kind of stayed clear of them, and I worked with locals directly, people that actually needed help. It wasn't me just going to a supply hub and organizing supplies. Like if you can fog up a mirror, that's where the people that show up with just the two hands, like, hey, go to this hub, help them organize the supplies. Like, there you go. Anybody can do that.
Right.
I showed up with more than just to organize supplies. So that's what I did. I just went and got with the locals. I found people that truly and legitimately needed the help. Anybody that donated to me, any funds, whether they donated funds, supplies, whatever, they can hang their head high. They can hang their head high. They can lay their head down at night comfortably knowing that whatever they donated, I promise you it went to people that needed help.
It's awesome.
I didn't work with any, you know what I'm saying? I didn't work with people that didn't really need the help.
That's awesome, dude. That's great. That's we all have also seen the stories of what the media is saying the death toll is. And I think, Mel, you said something before recording about the official numbers, like 243 or something.
It says here, hold on, I had it. The death toll, official death toll is 219 people with 26 people missing.
So, DW, based off of what you witnessed, is that a fair estimate, or do you think that's very, what's the word I'm looking for? You think that's a lie?
Yeah. So, obviously, anybody that's been following this at all, or, maybe even if you haven't, I mean, the death toll. So I'm going to go with my personal opinion, and then I'm going to tell you how I came to this, because it is a touchy subject, 1000%. And it's just weird. So I don't think that's accurate. I don't even think that's close to accurate. And the reason why I say I don't think that's accurate is mostly because I only went to one fire department out of, I don't know, 8 to 10 different fire departments that I went to. I only went to one fire department, and the chief looked me in the eyes and said, "We have 100% accountability of all of our people." There was no other fire department that was even as close to as confident as them. And that's only in the small area that I worked in. So I think the reports were sent in a little too quick, basically. I think the fire departments kind of were getting in a headbutt match instead of trying to be more straightforward and honest about it. And I think they were just turning in their report saying they had 100% accountability on their people for their county, just because other people were doing it at certain times, I guess.
So chiefs didn't want to look bad in the media eye or something.
Exactly.
Which is
not necessarily the media's eyes. I think their boss's eyes, like whoever controls
the governor, I
the
guess.
Fire department. Yeah. The governor, the mayors. I'm not politically correct and all that, but that's kind of how I kind of took it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that, like, so for instance, there was one fire department, Double Island Fire Department, that was probably one of the most locked in chiefs that I'd talked to, but yet they were kind of the fire department that was not cared about. They got very little assistance even from the county fire department. So basically with him up there, I don't know, like the little fire department, trying to be like, hey, yo, we have 100% accountability of our people. we're good. We have this under control. We got this on lock. We need these supplies. Like, he was a very locked in chief. He kind of got shunned for it. And that, you know, like, that was just the conversation that I had with him there at the Double Island Fire Department. And of course, I mean, everybody's cool with me at this point because, well, now I'm the gas guy. Like, I assumed many different roles, and I fell into the guy that delivered over 3,000 gallons of gas all over Yancey County in 72 hours. Like,
wow.
Yeah, so I would stop in and I would fill his tanks up for him to pass out to his people for the generators or whatever, and like, or I would take people fuel that needed it and stuff like that. Yeah, and he just basically spilled the beans one day and told us that, you know, like, West Yancey kind of left us hanging and, you know, stuff like that. So, and it was all because, I don't know, he was the most locked in fire chief that I'd talked to, hands down, without a doubt. And they just didn't like the fact that he was taking care of business.
Some small town redneck showing us up.
Yep. Small town politics, just everything just kind of fed into it. So I feel like that kind of manipulated the death toll numbers. Now, with that being said, the deaths were very, very, like, hush hush. If anybody asked the chief, if anybody asked a firefighter, like, hey, like, what do you see? What do you think the death tolls are? You got the same response from them. It was almost like coordinated. Well, you know, that's one of them things where you really just gotta have to talk to the chief. Like, you know, we don't know. And you know, I'd hear reporters ask him, like, well, you know, we don't need exact numbers, but like, what are you seeing? Like, are you seeing 2 or 3 bodies a day? Are you seeing no bodies a day? Like, what's going on? And he's like, that's something you got to talk to the chief about. And then they would go and try to talk to the chief, and the chief would do what he did and just give them cold shoulders. So it was very, very, the death numbers were very, very held under wrap.
Strange.
I will tell you this. Yeah, exactly. So I will tell you this, and this kind of feeds into some of the other things that I would do. So I would help the fire department. I slept at the fire department in my truck every night for, I don't know, 15, 20 days, whatever it was. So I slept in the fire department parking lot. I would wake up every morning. I would go talk to the chief. I would talk to Randy Buckner there. He was like the chief's right-hand man. He wasn't the assistant chief. He had his own parkway there, Buckner Parkway. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was high in that. He was very high up in the chain of command there somewhere.
All right.
So I would go talk to them directly. I'm like, hey, Chief, Randy, you guys have anything specific you want me to do? Whatever, you know, like there was one day they was talking about me going to working with their veterans teams to basically do search and rescue, or search and recovery, not search and rescue. And I would ask them every morning, what do you want me to do? And most mornings they'd be like, just go do your thing, man. We appreciate you. I was like, all right. I would go work with the locals a little bit. I would run some supplies to some hubs. I would, you know, get special supplies for people, you know, toilet paper, candy bars, whatever. I would just, whatever would help ease the thing there. I would do that during the day. And then during the night, I would get on Facebook Messenger, and because a lot of people seen I was in that area, they'd be like, oh, can you go check on my grandma? Can you go check on my sister? My friend with 2 kids lives here in Candler. Just every night there would be 10, 15, 20 people messaging me to check on people. So instead of hanging out at the fire department and eating lobsters and steaks and stuff with them, I would go basically run side missions to help people at night that reached out to me on social media. And so that's what I would do. I would go help them. I would take people gas. I would take people food for their kids. And then get back at the fire department at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. During that time, I also did some other side missions, and let's just say we found out that there was 28 mobile morgue units moved in for FEMA right outside Asheville.
28?
28.
How many do those hold each?
That's what I was about to get to. So each one of those mobile morgue units holds 68 bodies.
Wow.
So reefer trucks, they're refrigerated trucks. So if you do the math on that, and if FEMA is planning for 28 reefer trucks in just one area, this was just one small area. I'm talking Asheville, Yancey County, Burnsville, Weaverville, just that little area right there, all within, 45-minute drive of each other. If they brought in 28 reefer trucks to that one FEMA site that can hold, what's 28 times 60 will be conservative.
28, you said 68?
Yeah, 68 is what they supposedly hold.
1904, 1,904 total.
So if they're planning for almost 2,000 people in one little area, that wasn't the only FEMA site. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. You do the math for me, because that math ain't math, and that's just the outside bigger picture. My personal experience of it, I didn't necessarily find any bodies. That's also because that wasn't my goal. And I said that on one of my social media posts, talking about working with the veterans team that was there at Yancey County. I said I didn't really want to do that. Like, I had my share of it.
Right. Yeah,
like
dude.
I've had, and this might be rude, I guess. I don't know. But they're dead. Let's continue to help the people that are hanging on by a thread here to survive. Like, there's people out here rationing a bottle of water because they don't know when they're going to get another supply drop.
Yeah, probably drinking their own piss.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to focus on. But at the same time, while focusing that, you still, there was so much death in the area, or, just damage in general. There was so much in the area that you're going to come across it either way. And my time in Pensacola, for instance, you've seen the search and recovery teams. You've seen what they were doing. You've seen where the red flags were put because there was too much dirt and debris buildup, but the dogs were still hitting on it. So you kind of get an idea of like, yo, there's a lot of people missing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the area that I was working, or the areas that I was working, you start talking to these people when they start opening up to you. They're like, oh man, Joe down the road, he didn't make it. He got washed away with the floods, and Hannah down the road, her and her sister, nobody's heard from them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and those aren't real names. I'm just spitting names.
Right, but yeah, with you working with the locals, I'm sure you heard a lot of that.
Exactly. That's where I was at. So whenever some of the first reports were put out, I remember looking at one of the reports. It may have been on social media. I don't remember exactly where it came from. But it said Yancey County still has 11 missing, or 11 deaths, or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I can talk to people on one of the roads that I've worked on, and they'll tell you that 6 of their neighbors are gone. That's one road.
That's, yeah, just one road, right? Jeez.
Right. So, again, you kind of got to assume that those numbers are not correct, because a million different reasons, I guess. Like I said, I think fire departments were reporting too quickly just to save face.
And
I think,
and out of probably saving themselves the embarrassment of being like, oh, we were wrong, which is so ridiculous.
Right, exactly. And then also, just the fact of like unaccounted people. Think about people that may have been in Airbnbs or rented Airbnbs, and somebody owned that Airbnb outside of state or whatever. You know, like, oh yeah, it was rented, and it just never got sent to the fire department. And then also, there was a lot of I don't know the best way to put this. I guess illegals there. From my understanding. And, yeah, like that
undocumented.
Undocumented, yeah. So, you know, those ain't getting sent up either.
Right.
So, I couldn't guess as to how far off those numbers are, but with everything that I just told you, I mean, you could probably come up with the same conclusion as me. Like, the numbers are not correct, but how far not correct, I guess.
Right.
There's an article by NPR not just a few days after that hurricane happened that said that hurricanes kill thousands more than officials count. And they say that the death toll for hurricanes is probably 300 times more than what they report on.
Right.
Is that just in general?
That's in general. That's hurricanes over the last 100 years. It says here that a new study published in Nature suggests its impacts will be even greater. On the average, over the past 100 years, a tropical cyclone hitting the U.S. is associated with somewhere between 7,000 and 11,000 deaths.
Right. And now, with that being said, like you said, in general, now imagine a hurricane hitting a place that is highly populated, so widespread, and nobody in the area is ready for it.
Yeah, there was no way to prepare for that at all. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and that's the real sad thing is that we'll probably never know unless you live in that area.
Right. And even then, I don't think anybody out there will really know the numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's possible. Honestly, like,
during COVID, they wanted to push out those death toll numbers every day. You remember that? It was like a disgusting like game show or something. But then this one, so that's what I find weird too. Why wouldn't the media want to? I don't know. That just is strange to me.
Oh yeah, no, very strange. And then you can dive down the conspiracy hole of every situation of it. You could talk about, I don't know, like FEMA running out of money. So if they make the numbers look smaller, then FEMA doesn't have to pay out as much. And, I've heard a bunch of different reasons behind it. But at the end of the day, none of the reasons justify for somebody not getting closure with their family.
Right. Well, and in this case, too, how many families were completely wiped out?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is nobody looking for them.
Right. And that's just like I heard. So I don't know exactly. I don't exactly know the whole situation because they were telling me about it early on. One of the local couples that I was working with, it was like her friend's aunt or it was her aunt. And I'm sure she'll probably, we're friends on Facebook, so I'm sure she'll listen to this podcast and let me know. But it was either her aunt or her friend's aunt or her husband's aunt, somewhere down the line. Her aunt brought in a whole family, people from like Venezuela or something like that. Like they were out of country. She built a bunch of tiny houses on her property for them and all this stuff. And I don't remember if it was because her sister or something like that was like married one of the family's brothers or whatever. So that's how it all got tied in. And she moved the whole family from out of country to her property there. Well, when the floods came in, it took them all.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure that Most of them were undocumented or, whatever, like whatever you want to say it is. But it's not because they were trying to be bad people. They didn't. Yeah, sure, they may have came here illegally or whatever, but they were planning on doing the right thing. They just needed time. And yeah, it's that none of them are left. So
it's terrible.
Again, like, are those tied into the numbers? Like
doubtful.
Exactly. So, yeah, man, it was just crazy that they just didn't. I don't know. Like, there was so much. I don't know. Like, I don't even know the words I'm looking for here. It was basically the lack of care. It's like anybody that needed to care up there just didn't care that they just got hit with the biggest, natural disaster that anybody alive has ever seen. And the people that needed to care, the people that needed to make things happen, just didn't seem to care.
So it sounds like it's a failure of leadership on multiple parts.
Yeah. All the way up and down the chain, bro. All the way. It was a failure. So another failure, for instance, and I'm sure you'll probably get a kick out of this because I always did. For the first week, National Guard. Well, not even the first week. I would say after like day 3 or 4, we started kind of seeing some National Guard presence. And what I mean by seeing National Guard presence is they were sitting on the hoods of their Humvees waiting for somebody to tell them what to do.
Are you serious?
I'm not even playing, bro. Every time, like, when I would walk by them, for instance, one of my last trips to Pensacola, I was going down there to that fire department to run on some gas. And I walked by the National Guard guys sitting on the hood of their Humvees, and I was like, hey, man, glad to see y'all are working hard today. And they were like, bro, if you know anybody that needs firewood cut, if you got anything, freaking yard cleaned up, we don't care. Like, just let us know. We'll gladly come do it. Because all they did is sit in front of the fire departments on the hood of their Humvees.
Were they waiting for the fire department to tell them what to do?
Exactly. And that comes back to the fire department leadership that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Because if you wasn't tied into each individual fire department's good old boy system, you didn't really get a task. You just got cold shouldered, and I'll get back with you in a minute. Hold on. He would go tell his buddy that doesn't really care. Like, he's just there because he has to be now to go do something. Like, I get it. If you're going to tell him to go do something, like, send a couple bodies with him or, whatever. But I saw a bunch of, like, that style of leadership. It was basically, if you weren't tied into the good old boy system there, then you weren't getting advice for anything. They wasn't trying to help you help them. There wasn't any of that. So
that's wild.
Yeah, bro. That's where I think the leadership failure on the National Guard is whoever's in charge of that little fire team or that squad that's there. That staffs aren't, whatever. He should have been going to the chief of the fire department and been like, "Hey, what's going on? What do we need to do?"
Right.
You don't want to tell me? Hold on. Let me go talk to my boss because I'm sure you're going to get a phone call in a minute then.
Or something. Stand on his desk.
Go do something.
Yeah.
Take them Humvees and cross the rivers and go take people's supplies. Or, I mean...
Yeah, put your fording kits on it and go.
Yeah, exactly. If I can do it as a solo dude that just rolled up here and injected myself in the situation and making things happen,
right.
I'm 100% confident that you as the National Guard can roll around here doing whatever you want to do.
Exactly. Take the initiative maybe, huh?
Exactly. Like I said earlier, bro, the lack of leadership, the lack of initiative was beyond insane. So that was a big portion for me being solo in everything I was doing.
I could see where you'd be getting frustrated and upset about that, dude. Yeah, that would be... I don't know how I'd be getting pissed. I think,
bro. Exactly.
And then especially
that's what it came down to.
Let me guess, those National Guard guys ate the steak and lobster at night too with the fire department, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly, bro. Like, It was insane, dude. It was it was absolutely insane. But again, because of all of that, man, that made complications on so many different levels, that it just made it frustrating. I don't know, I didn't really enjoy all that, you know?
Right. Well, and we've been hearing other stories of just the incompetence of FEMA in certain areas, the incompetence of the sheriff's departments in certain areas as well. So, unfortunately, sure. I didn't realize how messed up your story was with all this, but it doesn't kind of put two and two together. It sounds like that was just happening all across the board. Like nobody knew what the hell was to do. I guess going on. Like, and to think 100%. About it, man, it's so sad because I think 40 years ago, just even 30 years ago, when I was a kid, I remember neighbors would get out, we'd help each other. Oh, we don't need to wait for the cops to get here. Let's band together and let's go out and help our friends and family out. Which I think some of that has been starting to happen too in North Carolina because I've been seeing a bunch of people getting together and building roads and stuff. Have you been seeing that?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. A lot of the stuff. If you go back, I could take you back in every area that I went to, and I would let you. You could ask the locals there. I'd let you ask any of them. Hey, who helped you more? Was it private volunteers and locals, or was it your city officials and your fire departments? They would tell you 1,000% they had probably never even seen a firefighter or a city official.
Wow.
The whole time. The only time they may have seen them was when they were driving through, again, taking pictures and just promoting themselves in a sense.
And getting funding from
right
everywhere for them, but not. Hey, at least they're letting you take supplies out of the fire stations to take out to those people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One of the first families that I went back to, and that I just went and seen them this weekend. Just because I'm not up there all the time doesn't mean that I'm not staying in contact with most of the people that I worked with. Even when I went back there last weekend, and I took them supplies. That was definitely a clutch thing to do. Was being that the fire department was so close and everything else was shut down within an hour. You had to drive at least an hour and a half to get to anywhere that you could have maybe bought supplies, right? So having the fire department close by to run them supplies was massive, because one of the first families I rolled up to, the lady was holding a bottle of water, and the thing about up there is this family that I went to, and I won't say any names or anything, like, just because, like, I didn't even take pictures of anybody's personal belongings, none of that, so I won't get personal with them. But one of the first families that I rolled up to help, like, with supplies, they tried turning me away at first. They was like, "Oh no, we're good. They were standing in front of everything that they had walked down the side of the river and picked up that was in their house at one point in time. They had nothing. It took both their vehicles. It took their ATV.
Wow.
It took everything. His freaking tools were washed down the riverbank, and anything that they could walk down the riverbank and find that was theirs, they kind of drug it back up to their house and piled it in front of their house or where their house was. And I asked him, I was like, "Yo, like, do you guys need anything, man? Like, I have access to a bunch of supplies. I have a bunch of donated money. Like, what do you need help with? Like, what do you need right now to survive?" And it was a fight, bro. They didn't want help. And that was how most of the people that I encountered was. Like, they were very prideful people, and they was like, "Oh no, we're good. We'll figure it out. No, we're good. Thank you. We're good. No, we're good." That I heard it time and time again.
That good old Appalachian spirit, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So it got to a point, man, where I was like, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Well, actually, no, let me dial that back. So when I was talking to her, I was like, "All right, well, if you guys are good, I'll check on you in a day or two and see what's up." And I just kind of started talking to them like they were a person. I didn't talk to them about the disaster. I didn't talk to them about, the bad stuff. I was just like, hey, like, what you doing today? What you getting into? Do you need help cleaning up anything? Like, just carrying on a conversation. And after about 10 or 15 minutes of just kind of talking with them, like they're, not disaster survivors or whatever, just talking to them, they started opening up. Like, they was like, oh, well, I'm drinking this bottle of water and we got a half a case of water left. And, I picked up on that. I was like, half a case of water left? Like, when did you guys get water last? And they was like, oh, we just had it. Nobody brought us the water. I was like, oh my God. So I just told them, I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave 3 cases of water and 3 cases of the MREs right here. And if you want to kick them into the river, you can, or you can just take these. And
there you go.
That broke the ice, like from there, every day I brought them supplies every day. And it all started out with them telling me they didn't need anything, but in reality, they needed everything. So
wow,
that kind of I kind of played that role with everybody that I met. Like from there, instead of rolling up to them, be like, "Hey guys, sorry you're going through this. Is there anything I can do for you?" Because that's what everybody was doing, I guess. I approached it differently, and I just pulled up and I was like, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Derek. I'm just stopping in. You guys need any help? What you getting into today?" And just strike a conversation with every person I walked up to or came in counter of, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, man, they would start opening up. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, we could use some rat poison because the rats are eating what's left of our dog food from this bag we got," and just stuff like that. So I fed off of that in a sense, and that's how I approached everybody, and that's how I got them to open up to me, because the standard across the board, if you talk to any volunteer there, I can promise you they're going to tell you that they got turned away by most of the people they tried to help. So
wow,
it was a learning curve, because I did humanitarian relief in Haiti for the Marine Corps.
Yep.
And it was a little different. That they were cutting our arms off, and well, not mine, but they were cutting people's arms off and stuff to get medicine and not caring about their neighbors. Whereas here in the mountains, if it wasn't for their neighbors and private volunteers, I don't know that they would even be where they're at right now, honestly, because those deep in the mountain folk, them deep in the mountain towns or villages or whatever you want to call them, they got left behind, bro, big time. So I just kind of started picking up on all of that, getting off the beaten path, taking the hard road to find the people that nobody's checked on, and then just how to talk to the people up there to even let you help them. Because they didn't want help from outsiders. They were gonna do it themselves with them and their neighbors.
That's wild.
So that was one of the bigger challenges, man, was just getting people to even let you help them.
And you wouldn't think that would be a challenge in such a horrific disaster, right? I mean, like literally, like, dude, exactly. Your house is gone. What do you mean you're good?
Right. My exact words, bro. Like that. 100%. That was my thought process. But
yeah, you're not good. You're in shock right now. Is what's happening.
Exactly, and that's where it came into. I just started forcing myself on them. I didn't really give them the option to tell me no at that point. Like I just you had to approach it a little differently, and that's how I ended up in the position I was in.
God bless you, man, because, it sounds like you did amazing work out there and helping a lot of people. And it sounds like you're still helping people.
Yeah, absolutely. They have my contact. They stay in touch. Once a week or so, I'll talk to most of the people that I worked closely with there, for sure.
So have you, in those small towns, even so, like I said, 6 months later going now, about, has there been any government assistance or county assistance in helping out those small towns still? Or are they just completely forgotten? They're just like, whatever, forget these people.
I mean, there's rumors, but I mean, I just went back there last week and it's still, so let's say last week I showed up on Saturday and one of the guys that I got a generator for just got electricity back that Wednesday. So what are we? 15 days ago, he was the last guy on that mountain to get electricity. So
wow.
If that gives you any idea how far it's moving along.
I see an article here that says the damaged portion of I-40 in western North Carolina is set to reopen soon. So like they still haven't even opened up the highway.
Right.
That's from 6 days ago.
Yeah, there's detours all over the place. There at one point in time they were talking about like 250 some bridges were taken out in Yancey County or something. It was a wild number. And that's not just main road bridges that they're talking about. So because obviously those valleys, that creek runs through those valleys, and for people to get across off the main road to get to their house, there might be a little 1-car bridge right there to cross the river to get to their house. They include those bridges as well. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that all 200 and some bridges are going to get paid for and put back up. In fact, last I heard is a lot of the private bridges are going to be on the owners to put back up. And you're talking,
wow,
you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for people to put a bridge back up just so they can access their single wide trailer. Like, make that make sense.
Right. That's ridiculous. And
like
on top of that, what, $700 or something that they got for relief?
Yeah, $700. And I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people that got turned down for the $700. I talked to some people that they weren't living in tents, but that's because there was a guy, Jason Wheeler, super cool dude. He's a teacher there in Yancey County, and he had a car, like a mechanic shop, garage basically, where he used to own a business and work on vehicles. And he ended up letting the family stay above his garage because, they got everything taken from him. And they basically, I don't know, like they got turned down on the vouchers to even stay in a hotel to get a hot shower and stuff. Like,
wow,
they didn't even get the vouchers and they lost everything. Literally, they had to live above his garage that hasn't been in use for years and stuff. Like,
that's insane.
But because they had a place to stay, like, they didn't get the vouchers, I guess. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the qualifications was to get the vouchers or whatever. But then I talked to some people that are like, oh yeah, FEMA paid for my aunt's vouchers to stay in a hotel for a month. So I don't know what was the deciding factor as far as who got what or how it got divvied out. But I know for a fact, 1000% that, people that really needed it wasn't getting it, and people that may or may not needed it was getting it.
It's probably the same way that the VA decides who gets what on their disability claims. They just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And if the shit didn't stick on you, well, sorry.
Yep. I think you're spot on with that. And I felt bad for them because they were like, man, we just, at the time they were talking about like a 2-night voucher. Just all you got to do is apply or something. This was like 4 or 5 days into it. And they applied, and they just got denied. They got told no.
It's wild.
It's like,
how could you even deny anybody?
What do you have to do? Like, they lost their vehicles, they lost both their houses, their garage, everything. And the even worse part about it is where they was staying there in that garage area. Their house was, they could see where their house was every day. They had to wake up and see that
because it's a reminder.
Across the river. Yeah.
Jeez. And whose ego do I have to stroke to get help around here?
Right. So like I said, I don't know. I don't know what the curriculum was. I don't know who got what or how they did it or what, but that's just I personally experienced and seen that's how it was done. That's how it was being handled.
Yeah, man, it's sad.
It is super
and
sad.
there's the other. That's the other thing too, is we'll never know the answers to those questions.
No, never. And then, like I know when I went back up there this weekend, there was some spark because I guess Donald Trump said like, oh, we're going to allocate this, I don't know, $100 million to Western North Carolina or whatever it was. He said something about Western North Carolina getting funds. So that kind of had, that was kind of brought up in some conversation with people that I was talking to. So that kind of had their spirits lifted. But I have this concern that even if that money gets sent to Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, whatever, I don't have a lot of faith in the local government and authorities there that it's going to get divvied out right. Like, I'm more afraid that the towns will probably get some nicer trees and prettier sidewalks. But somebody that lost their house and their stuff, oh, well, you're doing fine now. You can keep rebuilding that now that, we've made it this far. Instead of like, oh, well, you already rebuilt your house. Here's a $20,000 supplemental check, or you know what I'm saying? Something.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to go down that way, being that we're this far into it.
Yeah, no, they're probably going to have some nice renovations done downtown to the cities, and
right.
They're gonna do something intelligent like plant crab apple trees inside the sidewalks.
Right. Exactly. Going into it now, like I don't know. Like I hope they do get some funding down there. I just don't see it going where it needs to, even if they do get the funding. Unfortunately, man.
Yeah, that's sad, and I mean, I think it's still going to take some time for some of these people's stories to get out because the news cycle now, man, is moving so fast with all this other stuff going on, and it's almost like all these victims of Hurricane Helene have been completely forgotten.
Yep, it definitely does feel that way. I mean, it felt that way even 2 weeks into it. Yeah,
being an election year and everything.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know, man. When I got to Weaverville, the day after the storm hit, Weaverville was one of the Flag Pond School was one of the first places that I went to. Well, actually, I mean, that I started in Tennessee because of my buddy Brandon. He was like, "Hey man, come up here. You can crash here and you can kind of put a plan together." So shout out to Brandon. I love him and his wife for that. That was clutch. So I showed up, took kayaks off, and I ended up in Flag Pond, Tennessee. And they were like, "Oh yeah, no, everybody's kind of chilling today. We got everything in order. We got a bunch of supplies here." And I dropped some supplies off to them, and then I got pushed to down the road, Irwin, Tennessee. And I saw some pretty messed up stuff, but at the same time, they were chilling. So then I got pushed to Weaverville. And when I ended up in Weaverville, I was like, hey man, like I'm not running from hub to hub chasing supplies and stuff. Every hub that I try to go to, it doesn't pan out because, well, there was no cell phone. There was no communication. Nobody was talking to the next person. Everybody was just guessing or hearsay from the next person.
They didn't think to send runners like, in the old days. Right. I don't know.
Right. No, that wasn't happening, bro. There was zero communication across the board. So even 5 miles down the road, that hub had no idea what the other hub 5 miles down the road was doing. Their information was a day or two behind every time.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. So
it's like we become. I'm sorry. I feel like just society has become so reliant on technology that when stuff like this happens, that they just, ooh, well, cell phone's out. I guess I don't know what to do now.
Yep. That's exactly what it was, bro. 100%.
I can't Google what to do in this situation either.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm not gonna lie. It almost got me not having cell phone service. It almost got me in a weird situation, but I pulled through it. It was fine. But no, I got the Weaver.
But yeah, you also know how to read maps and all that stuff and everything too. Most people don't have that skill at all.
Yeah. So fortunately, that and again, that goes back into when I left. I knew I had the skill set to make this happen.
Right.
So, if I didn't have the skills and, the stuff that I've done, like it would have been a much different story. 1000%.
And do you think maybe that's why some of those people that showed up to volunteer just with their hands, they didn't know what else to do?
Yep.
They probably would have gotten lost in the woods on themselves or whatever. Something.
Yep. They were showing up for guidance on everything. And I showed up for, hey, tell me where to go and what needs to be done. Like, I don't need you to feed me. I don't need you to give me gear. I don't need you to do anything. Like, I need you to give me a 10-digit grid and I'll get there. Hell yeah. That's it. So a lot of people needed a lot more than that. They needed to be fed. They needed a place to sleep. They needed, like a ride, just all this stuff. And if you didn't have a small four-wheel drive truck, or if you didn't have an ATV at the beginning, you wasn't getting to actually help people. You were going to make it to a hub that needed shirts sorted out and folded. That's where you were going to make it. So, it's just one of those things that having that skill set definitely helped in this situation. And that's why I advised when I put out my post on social media after the first couple of days, I said, if you're going to show up with two hands and nothing else, then come up here to plan to pass out food, fold clothes, organize things, because that's where a lot of the help is needed. Nobody's volunteering to go do that help. Everybody's here to, I want to go be the hero and do this stuff. You didn't bring anything to be the hero. You don't have the skill set to even get out there. What's going to happen is you're going to get out there and you're going to be a burden on the team that you're put with.
Well, come on, man. I know how to drink beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Bless their hearts for being in the right place, but that's also, one of those things is being a man. We need to be taking care of ourselves and be prepared for a situation where you might have to put your back into it for a couple hours, for a couple weeks,
Yeah. For the first day of actual work, we cleared a trail all the way up and all the way like down and back up a whole nother mountainside. I'm not even kidding you when I tell you we probably cut up anywhere between 40 to 50 I'm talking big oak trees, like a 26-inch bar would barely cut through the whole thing.
Wow.
Like they were just big trees just laid over on top of each other.
And these are all green trees too, so they're not the easiest to cut through.
Hell yeah. And they're heavy, boy.
Yeah.
And we did that. Yeah, we did that. I don't know. Like I said, we started cutting our first tree at probably around 11, and we made it back to the fire department right as the sun was going down. And we were cooking. We didn't stop. Like, we just kept cutting, and like the guys that I was working with was good working guys, like solid, definitely just good working dudes. So we worked good together, and we made it happen. And I just don't think that the average person coming up there, he's sure you've been working your 9 to 5 all day, but have you been hydrating, and are you mentally prepared to work insanely hard today for no pay and it's dangerous. We're working around freaking chainsaws and cutting on the side of a mountain, and I'm slipping and falling and rolling 20 feet down the mountainside because, well, I live on the coast, man. My hardest walking is if I hit a soft patch of sand. So, they make fun of me and stuff. They call me a flatlander because, bro, everywhere you stand in the mountains, like, you have to have a certain lean and angle to you just to feel right.
Right.
So it was rough, and fortunately I powered through, but a lot of people I feel like would, made that a lot more challenging for the situation. They'd have to stop and take water breaks. Like, how we did in the Marine Corps, bro. Like, it chow's continuous and you drink on the fly. Like,
yep, hydrate or die.
Hydrate or die, man. So it was just one of those things where somebody not prepared for that could end up in a sticky situation. And even then, like, I got tasked out to run supplies down a road or to a hub, and I had to drive and get a signal. And then I found out where the hub was, and as I started making my way towards that hub on the mountainside, I lost cell phone signal, and I lost service. I lost everything. It went away, which I knew it was coming, but I didn't think about it until I had to make my first turn. And I was like, wait a minute. And it's like 7, 8 o'clock at night, so it's dark. And I was like, wait a minute. I just took a turn and I don't have cell phone service. I'm not going to be able to just be like, hey, send me to this address because I can't Google this address. So then I pulled up a notepad in my phone, and every turn that I took, I wrote it down in my notepad on the phone. And I got back out of there by following my notes on my phone because you couldn't pull up anything else. Like, nothing would load on the phones and stuff. But somebody that, I don't know, that's excited and never been in a situation like that, whatever the case may be, they might forget to write that down, get to that hub, and then, they're going to have to rely on directions from people or stay at that hub or whatever, because them roads were not fun to travel on, man. You'd be coming around a corner, and like I said, I would run supplies at night, right? For people that hit me up on social media. Some of these roads, you'd be taking a corner or at night, and if you're not paying attention, bro, the river washed the road out, so the road was gone. I would have just fell down in the fucking river.
Jeez.
Or the freaking river. I don't know if cussing's allowed, but
yeah, fine.
I would have just fell down in the river, man. Like, if you weren't paying attention. So it's just one of those things where somebody having the right mentality, the right skill set, and can handle that are the people that need to be in those situations. I advise to anybody that if you've never even been close to that situation, don't go into it trying to put yourself in that situation. Like, go into it and understand what your capabilities are, and let the people know, like, hey, I don't have a huge skill set, but I'm down to help. And they'll probably have you do other things around the hub. But the people that show up with unrealistic expectations of what they can do themselves, you need to stay out of that situation, because you're going to be a burden for yourself. You're going to be a burden for anybody else around you. And that's just how it is. I don't know any other way to put it. It's kind of rude, I guess.
No, I mean, it's good advice, dude, because especially if your heart's in the right place, you want to go there to help. You don't want to become another burden on these people that are out there trying to save lives, trying to get stuff out. So I think that's solid advice. Yeah, just be realistic with yourself. Yeah, it's awesome. You 100%. Have the heart to go out there and help people and help your neighbors and stuff, but just be realistic.
Yes, and that's all I encourage anybody to do that, ask me about coming up there to help. Don't just show up with your razor and your ATV, and you have one case of water in your ATV, and I'm here to help, but really you're just taking your social media pictures of you and your one case of water in the back of your ATV, like
flexing on Instagram.
Yeah. Exactly. You're here for your Instagram and you're here to joyride. And now you're in the way. That's what you're doing. So and we saw a lot of that. And even the locals
That's
that
crazy.
needed help, they seen that.
Somebody just roll up and be like, yo, mind if I get a selfie real quick with you because I'm helping you all out?
Yeah.
That's sick.
People would do that. The Jeep Mafia.
No.
The Jeep Mafia was up there joyriding. Yeah, bro. Like they even one of their Jeeps flipped in a makeshift crossing that one of the locals or some of the locals made this little bridge crossing. It was like a low land bridge area. And they just made it with their own equipment and stuff, and it wasn't nothing solid. And one of the Jeep Mafia guys flipped off of it, so they got their Jeep upside down in the river and all this crazy stuff. So it became
that
an ordeal.
sucks.
And yeah, so
and he became a burden.
They cut off. Yep, and they cut off one of the trails that we were using to cross the river. They cut it. They cut us off from using that and getting supplies to them people. So then they went back to, you had to take an ATV up and around the mountain, and then you could get to some of the people over there. And that's where my boy Raymond, I was kind of supplying one side of the mountain and working real close with the people on that side of the mountain. And Raymond was on the other side of the mountain. And I'd seen him in passing here and there on his four-wheeler, but I never actually had a conversation with him until about 2 weeks in. And, he was kind of one of those guys that was on the same page as me. He was like the disorganization up there, the local authorities, like they are all out of tune. They do not understand what's going on. And so he just posted himself up back there on the backside of that mountain and uses his four-wheeler to run supplies, do wellness checks, and help people. And then me and him started working close together. And I mean, me and him supported, I'd put it in the 200-300 households between the two of us.
Wow, that's awesome, dude.
So it was cool, man, to see somebody else out there kind of hooking and jabbing in the same sense I was. Like our relationship of working, like I didn't have to say anything to him. He didn't have to say anything to me, but we were both getting stuff done up and down those mountains, and it was super cool. So I got to shout out Raymond too, because he was definitely a solid asset back there on those mountains.
That's awesome. And that's always nice to have that rare working relationship where you don't even have to talk. Yeah. You just know what's going on. That's how Mel and I work together.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, when you got somebody you can work with like that, dude, it just makes things so much more enjoyable,
Oh yeah.
Because I got tied in with the speedways and NASCAR a little bit, So NASCAR ended up giving me a truck and all this stuff to run more supplies. They gave me a Dodge Ram 3500 long bed, like. It was awesome. And Raymond would be like, hey man, I need 2 generators. I need 6 buddy heaters. I need some rugs for this place. You know what I'm saying? He would just give me a list. And I would go back to the Speedway in Wilkesboro, and the next day I'd have him that entire list. Like he didn't have to worry about nothing. He knew when he told me, I had it. And when I told him, I knew he had it. And that was a very rare situation up there, because like I said, when you talk to anybody else, it was like they heard you, but they brain dumped it as soon as they started talking to the next person. So working with somebody like Raymond was definitely a breath of fresh air. It was a sigh of relief. Like I knew when I was going to see Raymond, I'm like, hey man, what you need? And he would give me what he needed. I'd tell him what I needed. And then we'd rock and roll. I'd be like, oh yeah, can you run this here? Can you run this to Jim? Can you run this to Sarah? Like, it definitely, we just kind of, I don't know, fell in line with each other and respected each other's role in the relief efforts. So
that's awesome, man.
It was dope. It was nice running into him, man. I really enjoyed that.
Good. And yeah, I'm sure it was a nice change of pace from the other leadership that you've seen, right? So
yeah, bro. It was wild for sure. Again, I mean, I get it because they're all volunteer fire departments. Every fire department out that way is volunteers. They're not paid firefighters. So
because they're all small towns, right? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I get it. They could have never foreseen ever being put into something like this, and they probably never will again in their life. It's just
Lord willing.
Yeah, it's just it's the things that happen there. If that happens again, man, like nobody needs to live in that area because.
Wow, the roots are old there, man. Yeah. I don't think.
No, I agree.
Yeah, people would still be living in there even if all those towns got taken out, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%. And definitely the ones that are higher up in the mountains, obviously they were affected by the fact that they couldn't leave because of landslides and down trees and no electricity. But the people that lived down in the valleys closer to the rivers that lost everything, the people that did, if this happens again, don't live there. It's too bad. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine staying there after a second one like that. There's no way. I'm not rebuilding again. That'd be wild.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Yeah, I'd be done too. I'll find another mountain to go live on.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Somewhere that doesn't have a river.
Right, yeah.
Further up the mountain.
there's plenty other places.
I mean, there's a couple families that, they lost everything and they came back and there was one guy, and you might take a little emotion to this, I guess, but he was a 92-year-old World War II veteran, and his house was literally on the river. He was like this decorated World War II fighter pilot. I never actually got to talk to him because he was just a very disgruntled guy. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to do much. But the lady that lost her house and was living above the old garage, he would walk down there and get supplies from him. So he called her, his girlfriend and stuff, whatever, just playing. But he posted up a tent right where his house was and said, I will die here. This is where I'm going to stay. So he just continued to sleep in a little single one-man tent right there where his house used to be, right on top of literally the crumbled foundation and stuff, bro. And he just had a little lawn chair that I guess didn't get destroyed, and he would just sit there in his lawn chair outside of his tent staring at the river. He didn't want nothing from nobody. He didn't really talk to anybody. He didn't do anything, man. He was like, I'm gonna die right here. I don't care anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. Every now and again I would stop and drop a box of MREs at the little rubble building that used to be his shed, just because other people had told me, don't stop and talk to him. He's going to be very, very rude to you and stuff. So I didn't never really stop and try to talk to him just because I don't know. I mean, I get it. If I was 92 years old, I lost everything that I had, and I knew I didn't have much time left. Whatever, I'm just gonna just leave me here. So I didn't really stop and talk to him. I just drop off a case of water, case of MREs, and leave whenever I didn't see him sitting around. Just so he had it, There was people that posted up, man. They didn't, like you said, they didn't care. That's where they were staying.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't blame him, especially that guy. I mean, yeah, holy shit, just let me die here then. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the attitude that I got from it. From talking to other people about him. I was like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna bother him, man. I'll just drop him something, and if he kicks it in the river, he kicks it in the river. If he uses it, then great.
All right, yeah. Well, yeah, he's a grown man. He can do what he wants.
Yep, exactly. So I was just kind of respecting his privacy, but trying to help him in a way.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here real quick, but before we go, do you have any? I guess what would be your most heartwarming story that you'd have to take out of this?
After the first day, it was definitely it was all business. I mean, nothing really kind of tugged on the heartstrings, but I would say my first night rolling into Burnsville was the motivation that kind of pushed me as far as I did. The first night that I rolled up into Burnsville, even before I hit the fire department, I hit the Burnsville town square, and there was people just standing everywhere, like looking lost. You know, like they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't have a cell phone service unless they were standing right next to the building that had a little generator with the cell phone place running. And that was probably the biggest, like, it almost got me for a second, because that's when I handed out supplies to people that literally just had nothing. They were just standing around lost. It was probably the most surreal time in Western North Carolina, I guess, when I first showed up to where I needed to be. There was just so many people standing around the town square that, like, I almost got overwhelmed, and that really don't happen to me too much. I was handing out baby food, pacifiers. I had people all around the back of my truck taking supplies and handing out supplies and all that. So that was probably my biggest heartfelt moment, pulling into the situation and really seeing the people's faces and stuff, like, you know, they were down, and that was my motivation for staying there for 90 some days, is I just remembered seeing everybody that night after the storm. So yeah, it was pretty wild, man.
Yeah, I bet that's one of those things, like, all right, hey, this is why I'm here, right?
Yeah. That's what locked it in. I was like, yeah, we got to get in here, man. We got to do this, and that's what we did. So that it was definitely surreal, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So, all right, well, do you want to plug your podcast here and let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, man. So I'm on, like, we do have our podcast going, and I talk to you about that a little bit. We're gonna get back on the podcast. We haven't posted in a while, but all of my handles you can check out: Heathens_outdoors. I'm on Facebook mainly. Facebook is my main one, but I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and then Spotify is where our podcasts are. So
okay, I'll put some links in the description of the episode.
Yeah, and I just to let everybody know, it's not like, I'm not a disaster relief guy or anything like that by any means. This was just something I did. Most of my content is oriented around fishing, hunting, you know, just outdoors stuff. This just kind of, I don't know.
You had a calling, man. Yeah, you're a badass, dude, for doing that. And it sounds like you had a calling and you stepped up to the call, dude. So
yeah,
and came fully prepared, well more prepared than it sounds like some other folks. So
right.
But no, this was an amazing story, dude. And yeah, God bless you, and you should really be proud of yourself for getting out there and doing that, dude. And God bless everybody that donated and donate supplies of money. Are you still doing that too? Are you still needing donations as well? Because we can put that link in the description here too.
No, I'm not personally taking any more donations just because, like, I don't know my exact schedule for going up there. I mean, I know I'm going to go back up there. I have plans with some of the locals, like going bear hunting with some of them, you know,
sweet.
Going up there and roasting a pig in the ground. And, you know, I have plans to continue to visit them, but I don't know my next trip up there. So what I can do is you know, I can shoot you some like GoFundMe links of people that I worked with directly that I know will help, or not even necessarily GoFundMe. Some of them are just like, you know,
Venmo or
standard
something.
links. Yeah, Venmo or something. But these people are legit, like needing the funds, and the funds will go to use. You can definitely add those if you want.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
as far as me personally, no, I don't want to take any more donations and take on that obligation right now. But there will be some things. I have some plans coming up here soon that I'm going to be pushing those links, the same links that I would send you. I'm going to push them on my social media as well, just to try to bring in some more help to those people. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it just yet. I got a few different ways, but that's coming for sure.
Okay, dude, definitely, yeah. Send them to me, and we'll get them put in the description on this episode as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Definitely. I know they would very much appreciate it.
Dude, definitely. All right, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, telling your story, and we're going to do our outro. And at the end of our outro, something that we do is we always give the audience advice on something, what not to do. Like, always remember, don't drink the Kool-Aid, don't eat the yellow snow, something like that. So, we're going to go on our outro. I want you to think of something, and we'll call you back in, and then you'll give our audience something, advice of what not to do, to remember what not to do. Sound good?
Yeah, man, absolutely. And again, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and sharing the story. You know, you guys are my first podcast since I've been back. I got a couple more scheduled for later on, but you guys are the first ones to hear it. So
wow, dude. Well, I really appreciate you being us being your first. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me again, brother. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, dude. We'll definitely have to do this again for sure.
It was a really good story.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
just let me know.
Yeah, we will. We'll be in touch, bro. So
yeah, brother.
If you would like, you can follow us on Instagram at iowatalkguys_podcast. And on X at iowatalkguys. We're also available on YouTube and Rumble at Iowa Talk Guys. And please like, follow, subscribe, share. Especially thank you once again to our Rumble audience and Sparky. Shout out to Sparky. He's always commenting on our stuff, so we really appreciate that. And always remember, don't eat the yellow cake.
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. And DW?
Yeah, and if the rod goes overboard while you're fishing, just dive in after it. The fish respect that kind of commitment.
All right. From the professional fisherman. Iowa Talk Guys, out.
Hi, good night, everybody.
I ain't got a good brain.
Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Oh, durka. It wasn't a space laser. It wasn't a murder hornet. It wasn't Sasquatch. It was a bullet.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You lose. Good day, sir.
Here I am with you in Iowa, and I'd rather be here. So thank you very much. Very nice. Appreciate it.